Now outside broadcast cameras at the old parish ground in Maesteg for live coverage of the rest of the first half and the whole of the second half with our commentators David Parry-Jones and Gareth Edwards.
That's the situation now then. The Maoris a converted try, Maesteg a penalty, having led for a little while. Both sides having suffered injuries in the last 5 minutes. Maesteg changing scrum halves. Lane taking over from Llewellyn, and Carl Baker's just come on for Shelford then and joined a scrimmage right on Maesteg's line. The Maoris threatening to add to their score. Lane slips the ball in and the Maoris drive well and they got hold of Lane, they carry him over. So what's referee Parker awarding? It's to be a kick to the Maoris for Maesteg fringing at the ball. And what will the tourist use as a ploy? It's Wiley, the ball carrier, 10 trying to find Nelson, 7, and can they drive? They've got the weight, they've driven over the Maesteg line. And the referee not able to award a try. He's seen someone wriggle, and indeed it's a penalty which goes the way of the old parish. They could do with this one. They trail 6-3, they're on their goal line. The scenery in the background perfect on this splendid afternoon for rugby. The pitch has seen a lot of rain in the last few days, but it's firm this afternoon. Borovic is the Maori's prop this afternoon, the team being led by number 1 Bill Bush in the absence of Quinn. That's Paul Tuoro, who got a touchdown just now over the Maesteg line, the Maori's try. Rickett, the tall line-out jumper. And these backs too, playing tricks with the Maesteg back division. That's little too Wiley, trying to get as far as Maesteg's 22 line. This time, Pokeri takes the pass from Blake. Aims for touch, puts the ball in on the full. No ground game. That's the exciting Steve Pokeri from Southland, proving as elusive and ghost-like this afternoon as he was against Cardiff in the first game last Saturday. On the right, Jeff Pope, Maesteg's hooker, is doing very well at the set scrums against much heavier weight coming from the opposing pack. Blake, good hands, missing out Wiley. That's Victor Simpson chipping ahead for Woodman to run onto. Bounce not too kind to the left wing. Coffiner Woodman, the left wing of the Maoris, the younger brother of Fred Woodman, who toured here a couple of years back. Maesteg in the front row have David Edwards nearer to us, Pope and Peter Francis, and Edwards is propping against Borovic. That's what we can see at the moment. Surely the ball didn't go in properly, but the referee hasn't blown. Maesteg must play the whistle. Kurarani can't get hold of it. Cooper, though, has picked up. Melsom is on the scene. He's looking for support. It's been knocked forward by Kurarangi, and the whistle's about to go. That's the second time within about 5 minutes that a handling error has let the Maoris down inside their opponent's 22. Maoris, by the thousands, thronging the Llanvi Valley. They're packed behind the Maesteg goalposts. The New Zealand Maoris scrimmaging inside Maesteg's 22, 6-3 up, threatening to add to their lead. That's a loose touch finder by Ian Hall. This is Andy Baker. It turned out to be better than the way it started. And Steve Brown doing well to be under a teasing kick. It was Lane rather, down by the corner flag. He tried to get length when there wasn't an angle, and it's loose and infield. Kurarangi wanted it, and so did Blake, but the winger keeps hold of it. Lane misses his tackle. Peter Francis does catch Kurarangi. Maya Melson takes up the running for the Maoris. The game, Gareth Edwards, threatens to burst into flower. They look so dangerous.
Yes, well, the Maoris in the last 10 minutes or so seem to be quietly dominating the match, whereas Maesteg really had the very best of the first half hour of the match. But really, they're not getting the ball as swiftly as they would like and as directly as they would like across the line. There's a lot of movement from the Maoris, but the decisiveness isn't quite there. But one is obviously waiting for the likes of Pokere to break loose.
Meanwhile, it's Blake feeding to Wiley. That's loose. Not too difficult for Steve Brown. He's making it difficult for himself. Pokeri's got hold of him under the Maesteg post. This is danger. There's been a penalty award for handling at what had turned into a ruck, says Mr. Roger Parker, or rather the Reverend Roger Parker, the referee. And what will the Maoris do? The 3 points are virtually there on offer, and Andy Baker arrives to kick at goal. The only possible difficulty that he could have is a bit of sun in his eyes. It's a beautiful afternoon here, Maesteg basking in quite warm sunshine. Andy Baker, 26, is from Waikato. His career has been hit by injuries which have prevented him really bidding for an All Black Test place. And he's come here really as the second choice behind Warren McLean. So can Andy Baker add to the Maoris' lead? That was some miss. The goalposts always look wider, Gareth Edwards, to those who don't have to kick through them.
You're right, but that really takes me back to a man called Steve Fox kicking in the Rugby League Cup final. It's obviously unbelievable, and virtually it probably believes that it's easier to kick in than to miss it. But of course, as you said, and a little bit of pressure, and anything can happen.
So Maesteg is still just 3 points behind. They cut themselves lucky. Borovic bobbed that down to Maya Melsom. Carl Baker, replacement, was waiting for the pass which never came. The maul is on Maesteg's 22 line. That's Alan Lane, replacement scrum half, the clearance kick. Alan Lane onto the field about 5 or 6 minutes ago, replacing Hugh Llewellyn, who came off with a leg injury. Expecting service from Robbie Llewellyn. Back on the right, Willie Lauder, David Arthur, Maesteg's backmen. David Edwards tucked in. Mike Griffiths, the midline jumper, marking Paul Tuoro. And the big Tuoro got hold of it. Peter Francis threw the line very quickly onto little Paul Blake. That's the good rucking which the Maoris have brought off more than once in this game. Kurarangi bobbing up on the wrong wing as he had done before, but a good tackle by Donovan on Woodman, and Carl Baker, 20, arrives to press the ball to touch inside Maesteg's 22. It went there on the full, and the line-out comes back a little way. Four minutes of the first half left. 20 for the Maoris. On the left is Baker. Cooper's just in front of him. 7 worn by Maya Milsom, crouching. 5 is on the back of Rickett, the 6'7" line-out jumper. But Mike Griffiths, not for the first time, able to beat him. Lane comes away, but the support is not ready to hand. And Rickett goes breaking away into Maesteg's 22. That pickup is by the other lock, Tuoro. And the referee calls for a set scrummage. A little infringement by the tourists. Peter Francis on the left, Jeff Pope in the middle, David Edwards on our side, Maesteg's front row, confronted with more weight than they can offer this afternoon. That's Lane, trapped dangerously, but offside given against Milsom, number 7. That's Maya Milsom of Waikato, caught infringing then. Certainly Maesteg can thank a series of free kicks and penalties for relieving a lot of pressure on their line. Little errors by the Maoris preventing this score rising steeply. It's for testimony, the stand they completed a short time ago, reminding us of 100 years of rugby football here at the top of the Llinvi Valley. Holding the ball high, the Maori, who rejoices in the name of Felix O'Carroll. Blake making better possession than that ball deserved, but the referee calling it not straight. Too wily at first 5/8 or standoff for the Maoris this afternoon. He comes from Wellington. He's a bundle of tricks. Alan Lane puts it in. Jeff Pope's strike. And Lane, knowing that he's got to work more speedily at scrum half. That's the Maesteg skipper, Phil Phillips, putting a ball up for Peter Jones to chase. But Andy Baker's there first, and getting in the skip kick 2-touch. David Edwards with the fair mop of hair right in the middle. He's 23 and he won caps for Wales at schools and youth level. And in front of him, the big man on the left, Richard Evans, 19.5 stone. The line out just inside Maori territory. David Arthur not able to win that. Here's Wiley. They miss out Pokari. Victor Simpson can't evade John R.F.C. Good marking by Maesteg. David Edwards decides to take on the Maori pack. This is Alan Lane. It's into space for Peter Jones to chase. Kurarangi, 14, goes back. He leaves it to the left wing Woodman. No, it was too wide, covering close to the goal line. There's been obstruction. And it was Alan Lane who was late tackled inside the 22, virtually in the same spot from which Maesteg kicked their earlier penalty for the same kind of offence. So as Ian Hall comes to take the kick, Gareth, how about this?
Yes, it's Alan Lane here who kicks ahead, and he is, as you saw there, very much late tackling. It was a very good decision by referee Parker, because the penalty, or the kick rather, landed on the 22-metre line, and the referee, rightly so, would have given Maesteg the penalty where the ball landed.
This is Peter Jones, Maesteg's left wing, who wants a little attention. Gareth, the half territory has really belonged to Walker Nathan's Maoris, I think, no doubt about that.
Well, I thought that Maesteg had started off very, very well, because one has to be fair to them, nobody really gave them much of a chance this morning, and with the omission of John Thomas and Gwyn Evans, really one felt that they were up against it. But credit to them, they've worked rather well. I'm sure that Walker Nathan is quite pleased with the way in which his side has played in the first half, but the confrontation is yet to come.
Let's break off for a moment, Gareth, to note that Walker is sitting next to the president of the Welsh Rugby Union this year, Hermes Evans, on the left, and on the right, the president of Maesteg, Windsor Major, in their centenary year. So while the Maoris confer, everybody's been watching number 10 for Maesteg, Ian Hall, making his mark out near the 22 line.
Come on.
If this kick goes over, the scores would be level as we approach half-time. Kicking due north, Ian Hall. That's a second one through the middle. The crowd is thrilled to bits. Rather against the run of play, I feel Maesteg leveled the scores. But there's no doubt of the delight of the home fans. Very good turnout. The new stand over there, chock full with home supporters. So making the mark back on the middle, Andy Baker from Waikato. And from the way he missed the penalty in front of the post just now, he could do with a little place kicking practice. We're well into injury time now in all the excitement of the last minute or two. There have been, the half was dotted with injuries. And Mr. Reverend Roger Parker, the referee from the North Midlands, is adding on a little time now. Baker's the backman for the Maoris, 20, 8 won by Colin Cooper, 4 this afternoon, won by Toro, 5 is on the back of Hud Rickett, and Jeff Pope throws long. The referee is not, yes he is, he's going to give a penalty to Maesteg for barging the line-up. Furthermore, somebody has been rude to him, and he's telling the skipper of the Maoris, Bill Bush, that he doesn't want any more cheek. There was, incidentally, a general warning to both teams earlier on, and referee Parker reminding Bush that any indiscipline could cost them a man. That's Ian Hall's line kick. Not successful. Wiley brings it a little way infield, tries to open up an angle. This is Steve Brown, Maesteg's fullback. Couldn't kick to touch on the full, well outside the 22. Kicks up to Baker. Here comes Enterprise. Baker was back. The number 8 wearing 20, if you understand what I mean. Tuoro's in trouble just inside the Maori 22. home side, probably aware that the second's ticking away at the end of the first half, wanting to get on with it, make the most of this territorial advantage. They're on the Maoris' 22. 3 minutes of injury time have gone by. Willie Lauder up high, wearing 8 from Maesteg, but not successful in bringing it down. The Maoris living a little dangerously, a couple of meters into their 22. Mr. Referee Parker stole a glance at his watch now, and he'll know that nearly 4 minutes of injury time has gone. Well, before the set piece could be formed, we reach half-time. Maesteg against the run of play, in my opinion, having kicked 2 penalties for obstruction-type offences by New Zealand, 6 points by the Maoris, and the Maoris a try and a conversion, 6 also. Gareth Edwards is with me. I've got the feeling maybe the Maoris are playing this game a little more loosely than they ought to. They haven't made sure of it, have they, yet?
Yeah, I think you're very near the mark there. What has probably happened is that they've been led to believe that Maesteg probably aren't the strongest opposition they'll encounter on this tour, and therefore are trying to move the ball as often as they possibly can instead of waiting for some quality possession. I wouldn't quite agree with you that the Maoris have completely dominated that first half, although I must admit that in the last 10 minutes or so, whilst we had our live audience, Maesteg have been more or less on the rack. But it is a funny game, isn't it? Just when it seemed that the Maoris would break the back of the Maesteg resistance, back came Maesteg with that late penalty to level the scores. Really, as far as I'm concerned, I think it's been an excellent performance by Maesteg, especially in the first half hour. They've never really dominated that half, but they've worked hard, and nobody more so than David Arthur, Wilson Lauder and Robbie Llewellyn in the back row. What they've actually done is kept tight, kept working away, and try and spoil the Maori possession, and they've done that very effectively. And then, of course, just whilst Maesteg were enjoying that 3-point lead early in the first half, the Maoris scored an excellent try after a bit of pressure, which put Maesteg under pressure and inside their own 25. The ball was worked to Teoro there, but just as we all thought he had scored, he was tackled by the Maesteg cover, and it was in actual fact Andy Baker, the full-back, who did score the try. Well, we had a bit of trouble there, so we may have another look at that try, because it was well conceived. Pressure under the Maesteg 25. The ball is worked to Pukere, who flicks it back inside to Woodman. Some good backup play by Teoro there, who seems to be going for the line himself. He does lose the ball, but referee Parker is very well placed to see that the ball moved sideways and not forward for Andy Baker to score.
The stand here at Maesteg full of personalities. That's Ivan Vodanovic, who is the coach, Gareth, to the 1971 All Blacks in New Zealand when you were out there with John Dawes' Lions.
That's right, and it's very nice to see him now in this capacity as a spectator, because he was a very well respected coach, and would have obviously wanted a little bit more success from that 71 side, but obviously I'm glad to say that he didn't.
Walker Nathan, the celebrated manager of the Maoris, Windsor Major next to him, Terry Cobner, one of Wales's new selectors with the balding pate. And everywhere you look really on the ground, you can see Maori support. And just below the man with his arms folded, you can just see half the face of John Bevan, Wales's new coach. Clive Rowlands, another selector in that row. And in the front row, Jack Young and Ray Williams, the new secretary of the Welsh Rugby Union. Osmond John from Pembrokeshire was there. Nicker Reid in the brown jacket, the man who was picked to come on this tour as a hooker, and then perhaps you can see the plaster on that right arm. He broke it and he can't be out there playing, but he's here with a party of supporters. It seems to rain every day that the Maoris are not playing here in Wales, but when there's a match, the sun comes out, the rain goes away, and everybody enjoys the rugby, players, spectators alike. It's Maesteg's centenary captain Phil Phillips just having a last word with Mr. Parker. (6-6) as the Old Parish kick off into the second half of this major occasion during their centenary season. That's too wily, wondering if he can find space behind Colin Donovan. Might find this a useful loose ball. He can't get round Woodman, though. Number 11 for New Zealand approached Donovan at top speed and channeled him so that there was no room left to open his legs and get through the gap between him and the touchline. Therefore, the line-out is at halfway. There were some torrid moments in the first half. Warnings have been issued to the captains of both sides, and the Reverend Parker wisely making sure of some space between the forwards this line. He's about to blow for not straight, though, isn't he? Maesteg having some advantage, and John R.F.C is the ball carrier, or the ball winner, wearing 12. So it's Alan Lane to feed the scrum for Maesteg. Inside the Maori's 10-metre line. It comes to Ian Hall. Steve Brown feeds it to Donovan. The ball's off the edge of his boot into touch. That was an attempt at a big, generous cross kick from Colin Donovan, which sliced away to touch. The man who played for Wales against a World 15 in centenary year, but hasn't yet had a cap, Maesteg's right wing. Paul Tuoro been very effective this afternoon, both in the tight, and we've seen him moving around in the loose. And either he or Baker got the touchdown over the Maesteg line in the first half. That's Wiley. And that's touch. Good clearance by the little Wellington first 5/8. Tuoro against Richard Evans is the front line out duel. The back one won there by Griffiths for Maesteg. Here's the captain, Phil Phillips. It's for Peter Jones to chase. Instead, Kurarangi, 14, has the easier job. The ball is in touch. Referee not happy with that. Maesteg, 6 points. The New Zealand Maoris, 6. Paul Blake, the number 9 on the right for the Maoris. Referee going round to the far side, where he will be talking to David Edwards of Maesteg and Kevin Borovich, the Maoris, about their pushing against each other. Meanwhile, the Maoris win well. Wiley gives it to Pokeri. In comes Steve Brown, calls well and catches well. Gives it to the supporting David Arthur, who heads for halfway, runs into a bunch of Maoris. They go over the top. Maesteg win a penalty. Ian Hall, 10 metres from touch, accurately done.
One is expecting the Maoris obviously to break loose almost any moment, but this match reminds me of so many matches against Maesteg and up here at the Old Parish. It is never ever easy. They don't know what the word quitting means. They played hard, they're aggressive and abrasive, and full credit must go to the Maesteg for this approach.
There's a delay out there. The ball seemed to have gone into the crowd. It has been given back now to Felix O'Carroll, who's hooking for the Maoris this afternoon. O'Carroll from Taranaki. The sunshine warm and strong here in the Sinby Valley. The line out just outside the Maoris 22. They infringe and are penalised. And this is what the Maoris love to do best, playing the handling game. And that's Colin Cooper driving as far as the Maoris' 10-metre line. There's the rucking, which occasionally caused tempers to rise a little in the first half. It did the job. The Maoris won the ball, and Steve Brown has to be very good outside his 22 line. The Maoris come storming in strength into Maesteg's 22. They lay it back. That was Borovich sending it to Blake. It reaches Pokeri, a cunning little chip behind Colin Donovan. He against Woodman inside the 22. Woodman's got his hands on it. There's support from Carl Baker. Victor Simpson's also there. Andy Baker, 15, the fullback, is there. Woodman, number 11, helps the forwards at the maul. And the referee's whistle goes. A minute or so's breathtaking rugby. Tremendous pressure on Maesteg, and at the end they have to concede a penalty for fringing at the maul. Gareth Edwards, that was splendid stuff, very stirring, wasn't it?
Yes, the Maori seem to have realised that in the first half they moved the ball rather willy-nilly, only to be cut down in midfield by the Maesteg defence. And there we saw the ball be moved back initially to the forwards, and then a fabulous ruck, as you pointed out, does tend to get the temperature moving, even if it's only for the crowd. But of course, a very effective method in New Zealand of winning the ball again. But really credit to the Maoris for sussing up the situation and keeping the ball rather tight.
You've been under rucks like that, no doubt.
Yes, and none more so than in Otago, where it seems to be the cream of rucking country. But of course, although it may look rather unpleasant to the crowd, and it may be a little uncomfortable for the player, when it's done properly, in actual fact, it's nothing more than any physical part of the game in itself. It's definitely not dirty. It just looks worse than it possibly is.
These days, only a minute is supposed to be allowed for injuries, but the referee, the Reverend Roger Parker from North Midlands, being a little bit generous, while Colin Cooper, who was at the van of that good attack by the Maoris, recovers. So another ploy by the visitors inside the Maesteg 22. How will they use this ball? Spearhead by the pack or space for the backs. It's Bush, the captain, driving away into Robbie Llewellyn, who brings him to earth, tries to turn him and prevent the Maoris rucking, but they've rucked. Wiley into a mass of the Maesteg cover, but Tuoro is there in close support. The ball loose, dangerously loose, close to Maesteg's line. Whistle go. The crowd is anxious, they're worried. The Maoris are in the driving seat at the moment.
Oh, I'm the frugal one now.
Walker Nathan almost willing his men to cross the goal line, carry the ball across from the scrimmage, but Cooper is suffering again. He's having a good outing, his first ever in a New Zealand Maori jersey. Colin Cooper, the number 8 from Graham Moori country in Taranaki. But the action that he was involved in just then, which brought the attack to Maesteg's goal line, has taken its toll, Gareth Edwards.
Yes, but once again, it's quite nice to see the Maoris trying to set up positions and situations underneath the Maesteg post. They're varying their tactics, which is very good. They've been playing a lot of inside possession, as it seems that number 8, Colin Cooper, has to leave the field from that injury sustained there. But it's very good to see the Maoris manipulating these attacks, and Maesteg are really under pressure.
So Maesteg 8 against 7 for a moment at this scrummage close to their goal line, and Lane comes away. Enterprise by Maesteg. Donovan firing the ball, making the Maoris backpedal. Who'll be there first? It's Kurarangi. Donovan's going to challenge him. The Maoris living dangerously as well. Maesteg enter the Maori 22 area. Robbie Llewellyn is there. Mike Griffiths is there. They're all there. Peter Francis too. That'll make the Maoris doubly anxious to get their replacement on. Meanwhile, they have to contain Maesteg on their 22. The old parish putting on the pressure. Can Lane get Donovan in at the corner? He delayed the pass a fraction too late while he tried to make the half break. Bad luck for Maesteg.
Yes, it was a case of taking the wrong option there. Lane obviously thought that he had a chance of making the break, but he didn't quite have the pace, and therefore he should have made the ball available to Donovan immediately. And now we see Bruce Amara, the replacement for the Maoris.
He's not on the pitch yet. Meanwhile, Baker breaks away. They try to bring off a scissors, which Robbie Llewellyn breaks up. Maesteg got 4 men outside, and they knock off.